it here. What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Frankenstein monster's favorite nerd. Today we are looking at the open and play Galvatron. Now, I'm not sure what his name is. This was given to me by Robert D. He bought it for me at TFCon because he always buys me things that I'm not interested in and or do not want. So he bought this for me. That is his nature. Now, it's called open and play, but it feels like they did away with the open part because he just came in a bag. It was like a bot in a bag, so it was just play. Taking him out a whole new door.
Open and play toys, now with 100% less box.
I think it was 50 or 60 bucks. I can't really remember now. Something in that ballpark. We're going to talk about that because the big spring taught me a lot. That review taught me a lot in terms of the feedback that I got. So we're going to have a big final thoughts discussion about this and kind of how I feel about this whole situation that open and play is doing and the company's future as well as my future in reviewing the products. One thing also I want to mention right out of the gate is it didn't come with hip skirts. I think it's supposed to on the sides, but mine didn't come with hip skirts. Maybe that comes in the one with the box.
Open and play toys, now with 100% less hip flaps.
That being said, let's get into it. So the only accessory that this thing comes with, at least on the one that I have, is this translucent plastic fusion cannon. I wonder if that separates as well. It's a tight little tolerance, and then this plugs into the arm. It can plug into either arm on a hexagonal port. And I think something else. Does this fold up? And this folds up as well. I don't know. Got a little bit of paint on there up inside that little piece. Let's talk about them. We're going to talk about some of the detailings and stuff afterward, trust you me. The head has a silver face paint, and then it looks like red plastic behind the eyes, and then red paint on the crest, and that looks good. The head is on a hinge swivel, which is my preferred way of doing business, so you get good down, good up, and the swivel, so no complaints there. The shoulder pads, we have detailings. We have red paint. We have gunmetal paint. That looks good. We have red paint on the chest here, silver and red paint on the chest. You can get not an ab crunch, but a waist swivel if you get the little bit of back kibble out of the way. You can utilize that. The shoulders are on ratcheted universals, both around and out to the side. You have a little bit of silver paint there on the bicep, along with the bicep swivel that is a bit impinged by the kibble on the arm, just kind of the cost of doing business. Double jointed elbow that is really ugly, and the elbow pad doesn't help cover it, so don't worry about that. That's just kind of done. And then you have the wrist swivel, and then you have the fingers on a base pin knuckle. The index finger is individually articulated with an additional pin knuckle at the second joint. Same for the other side. Now, for the pelvis and hips, you have a little bit of silver paint here, and you have a little bit of red paint on the back. You have ratcheted forward and back universal joints for the full Monty, friction joints out to the side for the full Van Damme. You have a thigh swivel at a really nicely done cut joint there. And then you have a knee joint that gets you 90 degrees on a soft ratchet. Moving down, we have dark silver paint. We have red paint. Actually, the dark silver paint is like a gunmetal. It looks good. Same going down there and on the toes. For the feet themselves, you have a little bit of an ankle tilt down, a little bit forward, and an ankle rocker, although limited. Tons of sculpted detail, but we're not going to give them full credit for that. And let's go ahead and talk about why. This is the Titan Returns Galvatron, which I haven't seen yet. This is my first time seeing it, but it looks ridiculous. I can't deal with this. Anyway, the leg sculpt is exactly the same. Actually, there's a slight variation. This is an arrow with like a pointed down arrow, and this is just the arrow point. But other than that, it's pretty much identical.
Open and play toys, now with 50% less original sculpt.
This is maybe a little bit rounded. This comes out to a more of a point, but it's pretty much the exact same. If you look inside the leg, pretty much the exact same. I mean, down to line count. Same for this side. Even the feet and stuff have inspired kind of detailings on them. Now, let's also talk about the DX9 Tyrant. And I think this image is from Imgo's review. Shout out to Imgo. It's the nicest picture I could find, actually, of the Tyrant kind of close up. But this looks very similar to this as well. Maybe not identical, but very, very similar.
Open and play toys, now with 60% less original sculpt.
Which brings me to my problem with this guy. This seems like a Frankenstein monster. Now, do I feel like it's a knockoff? No. But let's say it has knockoff tendencies. And that is to say, it feels uninspired and it feels unimaginative to me. It also feels very light and cheap. Now the price is cheap, and we're going to get to that in the final thoughts, but I just wanted to have this kind of Frankenstein monster discussion before we go ahead and transform him. Size comparison wise, there he is next to Sovereign. So in terms of height, he'll fit in just perfectly for your Masterpiece collection. In terms of presentation, not even close. Open this piece up here, tuck the hand in, close it up. Same for the other side. Open up, tuck in, close up. You gotta open this piece up here, push the head in, close that back up. That sound is a very tight connection. Close up these forearms to the shoulders, and then get the arms out of the way and this out of the way so that you can spin it 180, close this back down, and then this comes down and pegs in using the hinges to kind of form the target, for lack of a better term. This whole piece comes down, and then the arms come down and the treads come down. So once again, that whole piece, arms, tread, and then you have the legs, which you open up here and bring this piece out. I forget how this goes. Maybe it's like that. And same for this side. You're supposed to peg in the hips. There's like a little notch in the pelvis that the hips or the thighs kind of notch into. I'm not going to mess too much with it. There's a release button here on this spring, and that folds these up. The feet fold in, and all of this tabs together. On this side, this forms up for the base, so to speak. And this would help if the thighs were tabbed in properly. I'm going to try to work on that and show you, but that's the basic transformation of it. I'll get it cleaned up. We'll see what we can do. And I guess I should show you this as well. There's two options here, which is why I showed it. You can plug this in like that, or this looks a little more streamlined, I believe. And you're supposed to fold these pieces back also to plug that in. And there you have it. Let's back out a taste. This quick size comparison with Tiger Tracks. So big old cannon, and you know the hips still aren't right. I just can't get them quite pegged in right, and it feels like you're putting an awful lot of strain on these universals in order to do it. I'm guessing this is an early production of it because they were selling them at TFCon without boxes. So I'm guessing that that's the deal. Maybe some of this stuff will be worked out in the end, but you know, it is kind of what it is, unfortunately. So yeah, this is what it is. I mean, it's shaped enough like Galvatron, I think. I don't think it, you know, that's not perfect, is it? I don't think that that's super clean, or, you know, it kind of comes down to the same things, man. It's the same things I've been talking about. It's lack of inspiration. It's lack of creativity. It's lack of imagination. It's just sort of the lowest common denominator of a lot of things, including price, which we will now get to. Final thoughts wise, we got to break this down into subjective and objective. So objectively, the articulation works fairly much across the board. There's a fair amount of paint and all those sorts of things. Also objectively, it's unoriginal, it's uninspiring, and it's unimaginative. It uses a lot of sculpted detail from other figures and is light enough where it feels like you might need to put a paperweight on it, or it might just float away. I personally think the translucent orange was a poor choice as well, but that's definitely a subjective thing. Other objective issues are that the connections from the pelvis into the thigh are a bit of a pain to deal with, and the elbows are extremely ugly. Now, I ruffled a fair amount of feathers with the Big Spring review, and that's okay. I'm not here to make people happy. I'm here to give my opinions on figures. There were a number of people that were upset. I think that some people that watch reviews of figures they've already bought are not looking for my opinion. They're looking for confirmation bias. They're looking to have their opinions validated by someone who hopefully they respect. And when those opinions aren't validated, they become emotionally compromised. So people were up in arms because they were like, well, it's so inexpensive. Now, let me try to break this down the best I can. There's a misconception out there that I am getting all these figures for free and my YouTube is generating all of this money. My YouTube generates around $250 a month, which usually doesn't cover the amount of toys that I review inside of 1 week. The majority of figures that I review are figures that I have bought that I earn at my job. The other portion, which is growing, I must say, is sent to me on loan by viewers to take a look at and send back. Now, there are a few exceptions. Maketoys has sent some figures my way. Toyworld sent a figure my way. Open and Play sent their Springer. And Moss Toys obviously sent me one of each that I did the cover art for. And they sent me the blue one as well, to be fair. So the majority of figures that I'm reviewing are figures that I'm buying with my own money, that I'm earning in my full-time job, in spite of what you may hear or think or believe. With that being said, my philosophy still remains the same. And it's not just with toys, ladies and gents, it's with everything. I want to spend my money on quality products. I want the best. Sometimes I can't do that. Sometimes utility needs to take precedence. I have a Honda Civic, for instance. Wouldn't be my #1 car of choice, but it's dependable and good on gas. But when it comes to collectibles, especially when we're entering in the $50 or over, I expect a certain level of quality, a certain level of build, a certain level of uniqueness, a certain level of creativity. I don't get that with this company. I think this company is trying to make figures, to their credit, for inexpensive price brackets, and as a result, they are sacrificing things that are important to me as a collector. Therefore, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in me reviewing these products. Sensibility-wise, they just don't line up with what I am looking for, and with what I find in high regard. So I won't be reviewing any more Open and Play products unless they have a change in philosophy in the way that they manufacture and produce product. I'm just not the reviewer that should be looking at this. Much like the Titans Return Galvatron and the Hasbro main line in general. It just doesn't suit my sensibilities. I'm never going to care for it. So with that being said, this is just not for me. The light plastic, the light feel of the figure, the clunkiness and connectivity from the hips to the pelvis, and the unimaginative, uninspired, and non-creative approach to creating this figure is just not something that's ever going to appeal to me. If you are looking to spend the least amount of money for a character that looks the most accurate, I can understand how you would go this route. It's just not the way that I do business. My general policy is I'd rather spend, well, to be fair, I'd rather spend less and get more. But at the very least, I'm going to spend more to get more. I'm never going to spend less to get less. It's just not the way I do business. I'd much rather spend $60 on a Figuarts that's going to knock my socks off than $50 on this. It's just not for me. And that's okay. Not every shoe fits every foot. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.